Hello, my name is Linda Heemer, and I am Senior Director of Graduate Law Programs at Seattle University School of Law. Welcome to today's webinar, March 16th, 2021, Beyond Box Checking, Cultivating a Culture of Compliance. Here's contact information for me. If you at any time have any questions about our program and would like more information or to speak to me about some of your professional goals, you can call me directly at 206-398-4268 or email me at lawgraduateonline@seattleu.edu. I'd be happy to learn about some of your goals and to help determine if this program is the right fit for you. But our agenda tonight has some interesting takeaways as well as program information. We will start with our guest panelist introduction, move into the topic for this evening's webinar, then discuss the Masters of Legal Studies program details at a high level, talk about some next steps if you choose this as your academic journey, and have a Q&A. If at any time you have questions, please submit some questions in the chat. I will do my best to monitor them during our dialogue, but otherwise we'll try to address them at the end of the webinar. So I'd like to introduce Professor Rashelle Tanner. Professor Tanner, please say a little bit about yourself for the attendees.
Well, hello. Thank you very much for having me, Linda. I am happy, of course, to speak to any prospective or current Seattle University audience. Certainly, I got my law degree from Seattle University. And since then, I've worked, I was hired into a law firm where I primarily did employment law for about 6 years. And then I spent the next 12 years after that working as a general counsel for a large nonprofit, during which I'd say the last 5 years or so, we implemented and ran a compliance program. We were involved in several regulatory industries as well as healthcare and radio, schools, things for which we needed to have a really effective compliance program. And I didn't know that that would then lead me to Microsoft, where I am now. And for the past 4.5 years or so, I've been focused on, I like to say, influencing the workforce for good. But really what that looks like is, I lead integrity and compliance learning. It shows up in our annual standards of business conduct course each year. And, I've come up with different ways to do that where it's well received at Microsoft. I'll just say this one last bit before we move forward, which is, sometimes when people think of compliance training, compliance learning, it's sort of like, could be an eye roll or something we feel like we've got to do, i.e. checking the box, which kind of goes with our title today. And so, really what I want to talk about for folks is, other opportunities within compliance, places you can make a difference, and specifically in designing learning for maximum impact.
Fantastic. Thank you, Professor Tanner.
Thank you. So, I guess we can get right into it, thinking about how do we create a compliance-minded team. I certainly sit with lawyers in, not everybody's a lawyer. You've got lawyers, paralegal, other compliance professionals from finance to audit within our group. But really what we're trying to do is get those outside of us, those who aren't thinking about compliance every day, and it's not part of their job title or job role, to blend compliance into a regular part of the job. And that is about having sort of a compliance mindset. And so when, like, specifically the type of learning that we create at Microsoft, I've described it as it sort of appears as a Netflix type episodic drama. So typically every corporation does an annual standards of business conduct. We have ours too, but it's just in seasons. And when we think about compliance, and we'll definitely be able to get into this in a few minutes, but we think about rules what the laws say and how to get people to comply. And so, what we focus on at Microsoft is values. We can bring everybody around a set of values that are important to the company. And undergirding everything at Microsoft is trust. Trust as the foundation, making sure that we're building trust with our customers, with government agencies, with each other. And so keeping that at the core of everything we do. So I just say that to step back and not think of compliance only as, a set of rules or regulations, things that employees must do, but more of a thought about who an organization is, what they have to offer, and what is the culture that we can build to have this compliance minded team.
And excuse me, I want to, you're you're humble, but it's very unique what you were able to accomplish in learning and development, not just at Microsoft, but really in a disruptive manner for all learning and development, even though you came out of law school. And I think you described it. You said it was, people binge Netflix. Why? We love a story and we love a cliffhanger. We love the protagonist and the antagonist. And you really got that idea, and it really shaped and improved outcomes at Microsoft, didn't it? If you want to tell us a little bit about the training or maybe the character.
Sure, absolutely. I started in season one in 2000. I guess I developed in 2016 and it launched in 2017. And so we had a cast of characters from some earlier research about just effective adult learning, realizing that, any training you do, and I do like to call it learning as opposed to training, is, it's targeted as best as you can for the audience. It's relevant to what they do. It will have immediate impact or immediate application, and people can engage with it. Those are things that make learning and training stick. You can look at some compliance trainings and learnings and maybe check some boxes, do some knowledge tests, and then maybe kind of forget about them. And one of the reasons is, those things happen within a training context, kind of perfectly laid out for you to think about what's right and wrong. And real life can be a little messier and gray, and sometimes we don't really, things just don't appear like somebody coming with a suitcase full of money trying to bribe somebody, like maybe it might show in training. It's less obvious than that. So what we tried to do is create characters that employees would root for, engage with, and that are multidimensional, meaning we get to see them in their home life, driving with their kids, maybe, get some context around who they are and how they think, using behavior research in all of those things. And so it's super popular at Microsoft. I'm finishing writing right now season 5. So we've had 4 years of it. We've had certainly some characters that stand out. And then we also build around those characters. So as I mentioned before, our underlying message is trust. Microsoft runs on trust. And so when these characters are approaching these ethical decisions in the day-to-day job, it's sort of like they might not have every rule in their head that they learned in some particular training, but they have awareness to know, okay, wait, something is off here, or I need to ask somebody. So we kind of approach it that way. But when I just again, the course in and of itself, it's 4 10-minute episodes that we drop, annually. Currently, we might break those up and do one a quarter down the road. That's where we'd like to get to, so it lives with us all the time. But currently we have an annual drop, and this year we had 142,000 employees that were required to consume it within a 2-month period. In between each episode, we have, actually me doing a behind the scenes narrative where I can make sure that the learners have identified kind of the key issues that we are trying to get across in the episode. It's also a way of furthering the storyline, but it's also a way to make it still feel Netflixy. So we're doing real direct kind of learning information. Here are resources inside the episode segment, which I try to keep to about 2 minutes. And it's become a very effective and useful tool for learning on an awareness level. But then again, since we give resources and some static kind of written content in between each episode as well, making sure that employees know where to go for that kind of how-to part of I guess complying, with lack of a better word. But I'll say this, we've got employees tweeting about it. There's a lot of, if you go to Twitter and you look up Microsoft Standards of Business Conduct, you can see plenty of threads where people are talking about particular characters or what could happen. It's pretty exciting because typically we'll do a preview. Each little thing we do has learning in it. So we'll do a preview of the course to get everybody excited about it. And then they do. And, in my mind, I'm always thinking, wow, what a job. When I left the law school and, just everything I've done, who would have thought, I'm creating this show. I feel like a writer, a producer, what have you. I certainly work with a production company to make sure it all looks good. But it's, it's a great, to me, testament of, adding a little creativity to compliance and sort of creating a niche place for adding value to a workplace. When you can get a large group of people to coalesce around compliance, voluntarily engage with it. We throw out like trivia quizzes from time to time to all employees, and we'll say if anybody with a perfect score will be entered, for an SBC cameo. They can be in the course, as an extra. They really like that, and so we can look at the numbers of thousands of people that voluntarily, I say, take a test, trivia quiz. So, the whole idea is understanding what you want your workforce to do, how their behavior affects the bottom line, the business, and just the culture, and being able to bring that to them in less traditional ways. Meaning, your typical standard learning course. Avoiding that and engaging people differently has really been a great experience at Microsoft. And again, because our audience is so large,
and global,
and definitely global, it's great to be able to bring folks around that. And I'll just say, last season, in season 4, we actually filmed scenes in Beijing. It had to do with COVID. We were adapting. So one of the reasons why I think employees can engage so well is we make it very relevant, very current to what we're doing at Microsoft. And to be able to have content filmed at our Microsoft office in Beijing, which we had to do remotely. We hired a production company down there. They happened to be open in April or May, whenever we were filming, and the rest of us were shut down. So that's other thing we do. It's a global organization, so we do try to not make it just Redmond centric. This year we're not. It's not final yet, but we're working on another country as well to include in the course. But again, that's sort of a mouthful about what we're doing. I use suspense to engage people because it's global. Humor doesn't necessarily relate in every country. Suspense is something, though, that is universal, like what's going to happen next. And again, that's also why we binge watch certain things, or I should say why I do, when I should be turning it off and planning to watch the next episode the next day. I'm 2 or 3 more episodes in, half asleep on the couch, because I couldn't stop. That's what I want to do for, what we want to do for compliance, kind of flip this notion that, if there is the notion out there that compliance is boring or just one of those check the box things, let's flip that on its head and really show why compliance is one of the most important things in an organization, how that really drives everything. And so that's what I like to do through this learning style. But again, there's a variety of different ways different organizations can do it in a way that makes sense for them.
Of course. Thank you. I'm always fascinated and thrilled by what you're doing. And even I must say that some of your storytelling storyboarding and reaching the adult learner has influenced the way we've designed this program too, to make it engaging and relevant. Storytelling is universal. Before we had written language, we had storytelling, and what is ancient morals, morality and lessons learned. We all learn what happens if we cry wolf. So it's the stories from childhood and the suspense. But it's actually critical in major global companies. If someone fails to comply, it's not just fines. I mean, we see situations where there's tragedies involved. So, and it normally isn't general counsel or the CEO. It's the person on the front line who needs this kind of just-in-time learning and who can say, wait a second, something's wrong. I've built that level of trust and awareness to bring this up the chain.
Absolutely. And, there is, I don't know, rightly or wrongly, there's so many examples of compliance failures, right? In the news, from different companies, different corporations. Microsoft's had a few. We'd like to think that, we won't have them, despite having 140,000 employees. But so that's why it's so important. But I can say when you do storytelling and you tell stories that feel real and relevant, that is key. I work with our investigators. I work with subject matter experts on, all the different subjects that I put in the course. The kind of, I don't know, one of the great things about doing learning this way, as opposed to the more traditional way, is you can really blend a lot of different content. So for instance, responsible artificial intelligence is very important to Microsoft right now. Artificial intelligence is a new technology, well, newer, and it's growing rapidly. So we have to think from a compliance mindset about where we can go tragically wrong with artificial intelligence. We have to look down the road and see, okay, we're creating it for this good purpose. What other bad purpose could it be used for? So that's, an area of compliance. Certainly we look at privacy and security, and then we go into just typical regulatory compliance obligations. But the idea really is to make sure our storytelling feels real, and shows how people can, I like to not have obvious bad guys or good guys, because I think if there are employees that arrive with a mindset of cheating and doing bad things, those are a little bit harder folks to reach. My guess is those are small in number. And so instead, we want to talk to everybody else about what's right and what's wrong and how to hold each other accountable. So culturally, if one of these ne'er-do-wells came to do something wrong, arguably their coworker would notice and speak up, because we are bringing these issues to light all of the time in these courses. I should add that I do what I call companion courses, but we also call them, quote, bonus episodes, where we'll do a one-off that's not necessarily directed at the whole entire 140,000 employees, but we might have a targeted group that, gosh, we know they keep kind of failing at this one particular issue. It's an awareness issue. It's not that people are trying to do the wrong thing. They're just not aware of this particular rule or aware of this particular risk. And so being able to bring that to light is key, to, again, seeing movement and behaviors. And those are things you can, with different technologies and just surveys and things of that, you can see immediate behavior change. Certainly we also get tons of anecdotal feedback. And then lastly, there are places we tell people to go to ask questions, to get help. And so we also can loop back with those people and see how, during certain periods, more questions were asked. Questions were asked and people directly attributed to the course. And even sometimes an employee will self-report something that they didn't know was wrong, but they saw the course and they're now going through to report this in case this particular action created a risk. So we see all of that. And I think, again, that comes from the right type of storytelling that's broad enough that it can apply maybe to more than one narrow situation, but that it's specific enough that it will flag something in someone's mind for either them to speak up then or to think about that later if they're in a situation where this issue arises, that it would come back to mind.
That's fantastic. Just in our discussion, I'm looking at some of the words we chose for this slide. But I think awareness raising is also, because again, people can't memorize the regs. They may not be familiar with the law or policy, but there's enough that there's an aha moment that something does not pass the proverbial sniff test. So just raise awareness, and again, that's part of a culture. And with any other words that we've placed on this slide or that are missing that you'd like to just comment on?
Yeah, I guess I've mentioned some of them. Let me just unpack a little bit. Values-based learning versus rules-based learning is something I've talked about before, and I talk about it, I guess, pretty regularly. It's what we said, what will grab people. As you imagine, if you're sitting at your desk and there's a bunch of privacy rules, what you can and cannot do, like, okay, I got to remember this, put this somewhere. But other than that, it doesn't reach at your heart. And so if you have a company that's got strong values and you can wrap your compliance or tie them to your values as an organization, all of a sudden you're creating a little bit more meaning for compliance. Like, the goal is for it not to be like a one-off or, a separate thing. It's, as I see it, as compliance just blends with our natural way that we do business, we're better for it. And so being able to focus on our values, or at least hit it from that angle first, is key. And, as I mentioned, although I don't know how clear I've made it, we get them on the values through the storytelling and tying it through the values, but you still do need to make sure they then know what to do when the thing happens. So I'm not for getting rid of rules altogether, but thinking about how we, I don't need to know the rules. I need to know what I need to do. How do I need to conduct myself? How do I need to accomplish this particular task? How do I need to protect security while I'm, if I'm a coder, I shouldn't try to talk tech because I'm not a tech person, but in any event, X, Y, and Z, whatever they need to know. And then, there's other, as we know, compliance is broad, from HR compliance to, finance and all of that, but really the same idea applies based on your job role. And then I mentioned being innovative. Again, I think, for me, thinking about back to that first season, I know I wanted it to grab people's attention. A lot of companies, we've got a lot of things to focus on, especially now we've got COVID and working from home or hybrid work situations. There's just a plethora of issues, D&I issues, things of that nature. And so we don't want compliance to be a shrinking voice. We want it to be a loud voice. And so I think innovation in terms of delivery is the way to do that. And I think if folks understand their organizations or where they work, or even study them a little bit where they're going to work, they could think of what are those innovative items that are unique to that company, because I think making it special to that company is also, another way to form engagement. As I've mentioned, you've got these employees that tweet about SBC. In some ways, they're like, "Ha, look at us. We have this SBC. It's very cool." And so they feel allegiance to it. And that's, again, any good feelings around compliance is good, because you think of the water cooler talks. If we're ever back in the office, you've got people mumbling about what this character did or didn't do. And really what they're doing is they're just having another little compliance conversation, and therefore reinforcing the content without us even being there. I think creative kind of fits with innovative, impactful. I mean, you'll know if you made an impact if people, one, give you certain feedback through surveying, but I'd like to say through behavior change, meaning we can also see when people are escalating reports. So bringing, knowing that so many people either self-reported or raised issues either anonymously or directly through our reporting channels is good. Is a good way to see impact. But, overall, I think, just seeing the slow kind of change in the workforce of how people think and talk about compliance is one of the big impacts that you'd hope to have. And so, yeah, again, the others I think are pretty explanatory: engaging, relevant, of course, effective, all things that I've talked about. Practical is a question, but like, because, arguably this Netflix series idea is not practical. It's a big deal. I work with a producer. It costs money. It's practical for us. But again, there are other ways, very low hanging ways, low hanging fruit ways to make similar impacts. Like I said, trivia contests, things that, again, if you know your workforce, things that they would engage in, why not? Why not do it? So.
Fantastic. And again, just so many of these words you've already shared, and it's about not just in the learning side, but also on the culture side, and going back to a workforce, a mindset of a workforce, not just check the box, I completed the training, I have the certificate, now I'm going to move on, but to be able to do that globally for such a large company, and to show that return, that impact and the positive outcomes is just incredible. And you went to law school. Also,
Right.
people are like, oh, you're a general counsel. No, like you said, I'm a storyteller, I'm a production, I'm a teacher, I'm a lifelong learner. That your education was Seattle University, and a law-based degree that you found innovative and creative ways in a career choice that you may not have even envisioned in your first or third year of law school.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't envision this, but I love it. I mean, I love being able to write. If I weren't a lawyer, I'd be a writer. Or I've said that to people well before this. And so that's one thing. And if I were to replace myself, I wouldn't require it to be a lawyer. I mean, if I had the opportunity, my legal training is super valuable just for my being able to conceptualize everything and understand some of the risks. But I certainly work with subject matter experts to get the content right. I have a certain amount of ability to comprehend and understand, but there's tons that I don't. And I make people explain it to me over and over again. So I just say that to say, anybody like that's going to be joining or currently is in a business that, has some compliance opportunities, I'd say you just start looking around, look for the innovation there. What could you do to shake things up? Because, you don't have to have a law degree. I would say experience definitely is been super valuable for me. The experience that I did have while I was doing employment law for about 6 years. And then of course the 12 plus years working at a corporation and overseeing all their legal affairs, that gave me a peek at human nature from a very interesting perspectives that helps with the storytelling. But again, not critical for this. Not critical. Okay. So I'm looking at this slide now. So my final insights, I feel like we're getting close to time. So we talked about the value-based culture, message around the mission's really the same thing. Microsoft is about empowering, every organization and person on the planet to achieve more. So, how does this happen? One, they've got to trust us. That's the foundation to everything we do. Gosh, to trust us, we have to be doing things the right way, right? We have to be fair. We have to overthink it not almost, but we do, with a mindset towards our customer. And then, accountability and ownership. Again, those pieces are, one thing I think about personally, because I am the voice, I'm in between the episodes and I'm talking about resources. I'm always thinking, am I going to get tripped up? I'm putting a public face to this integrity, and I really write about people that are good people that slip up. And so I know those things happen. We all can, but how do we own and become accountable for what we do next? And those are messages that I think work within training, but just any compliance program. When we communicate with our workforce and our employees about compliance and integrity, trust, all those values that most companies have, what does that look like besides just saying it? How does that show up? So those are the things that, I think any good compliance program you'd focus on, ways that you can address these items. Again, not just these are the rules, we need people to follow them. It's sort of like, let's let's bridge that gap. We don't really have anything else in life like that, I don't think. Maybe speeding, but at least we know why we should speed or not speed, what the risks are. So it's kind of that same idea.
Yeah, and again, that's why we reached out to you when we started this program. Just it's now going 2 years since you and I met for our webinar series. You're a meaningful advisor and a member of our affiliate faculty to help this program grow. And again, recognizing that you don't need a law degree, it's not necessary, it's valuable, but that also we've designed a Master of Legal Studies to enable people to really solve problems through a legal lens and have the foundation of the law, but hopefully find areas where they could build that trust and that mindset. And part of that is when you talk about mindset and trust and values-based, that's where we came up with this motto early. And I know it captured you when we first met just a few years ago, that our motto for the program is compliance with a conscience. And a conscience is a mindset, and it is based on trust and accountability. And we realize that to be leaders in, regardless of your industry, having that sense of conscience is critical, and it does add value to the company. It's not just, it's a feel good, or it is a mindset that has a global focus, but can also be a business strategy for all the right reasons to help with sustainability and scalability, so critical in today's environment.
Absolutely.
And that's why, our MLS, a Master of Legal Studies, focuses on building hopefully thought leaders or future leaders that are trusted experts. And it's designed for people who may be in this field already, who realize there's a gap in their education for advancement. Many jobs and leadership roles require a master's degree, or they have all the experience, but they're lacking that perspective from law and policy. Oftentimes I hear from prospective students that they said, I always wanted to go to law school and couldn't, but now I just don't have the time. And I think this is the right fit, part-time, online, and it'll give me a great taste of law that I can bring back almost immediately to my current position. And that's what we hope, that they can develop specialized knowledge in a concentration or for an industry that's unique. We have students who work for wineries, they work in the maritime industry, so they bring a lot of different eclectic perspectives that focus on compliance or risk through this legal lens, and again, in innovative and creative ways. And that's why I think Seattle U does have a successful program. It's alumni and faculty like you who are scholar practitioners, really, who bring that mindset and show in real time the success they're having. So we want our students to learn from respected leaders like yourself that benefit from our tradition. Seattle University is based on a Jesuit model of education that's over 500 years old, but still is forward thinking and leveraging technology in innovative ways to train our leaders, our future leaders. And we try, all of our faculty, our students, the way we design our courses and our program, to constantly model compliance with a conscience, to model that mindset of trust and values. But just really quickly, it's a 30 credit part-time, fully online program that's designed to be completed in 2 years, a trimester program. You have 3 terms per year, and in each term you take 2 courses that are equivalent to a total of 5 credits. And you go through with a cohort. Your first full year, 3 terms, are required courses. Your second year are all electives with a culminating capstone. And we've designed it to deliver it in phases that are scaffolded in learning to help you achieve your outcomes and the competencies that we expect. And so there's a foundational phase in term 1, an operational phase in terms 2 and 3. You can select a concentration, or you can choose electives a la carte in your 4th and 5th terms. And many students say, oh, I'm entering into healthcare track, but they realize they love privacy and the corporate side. So we allow that flexibility. And finally, the final phase is action, where you get to create a tangible product. And that's beyond just the paper. We say tangible product, again, to open up in innovative and creative ways what students may design for a capstone. Anything from a mobile application to a process or matrix, or to a scholarly paper. And we have stakeholders who serve as sponsors, who are people from the community, such as yourself, who help sponsor a student through a capstone. So that's the quick. And then the nitty gritty. Our tuition currently has a base tuition over the 2-year program of approximately $37,000. But we do have merit scholarships for partial scholarships available, a pool of funds we draw from. So applying early gives you the best opportunity to be considered for merit scholarships. Our application deadline is May 15th, priority deadline, and we start on September 7th. And we try to keep class sizes smaller so you can engage with your colleagues and engage with your faculty. So next steps, apply. You can apply online. We'll answer your questions and we will respond to your application promptly. Normally there's a 2-week window from receiving an application to a response to a decision. We require official transcripts just be submitted at least before you start the program. It's not required at the time of application. So again, deadlines, try to get your application in by May 15th for priority consideration and merit scholarship consideration. And join us on September 7th and a member of our next cohort. So that was the rapid program plug, but I really wanted the opportunity, Rashelle, for you to talk about, and again, allow a takeaway. I like for people to think, what are the possibilities in this career? It's not just the traditional auditor, the traditional, check the box compliance, but with the foundation in a legal education and the motto of our school and the mindset that our faculty bring, that it opens up doors that we haven't even imagined. And we try to keep our courses relevant, timely, and rigorous to respond to the ever-changing needs of our students and the industry. Wow. I'll see if there are any questions. That was a lot. So again, you've been so much help in seeing the possibilities of the program, and also in opening, up the eyes of some of our current students who come in with one professional goal, and they start to see that change, and they grow. And I love the students we've attracted, and the faculty are just so passionate about Seattle University, about the students, and about their jobs. Everyone I meet say, I didn't necessarily plan a compliance career, but I love it. And
yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I feel like I fell into it in many ways. So I'd love to chat with anybody who has any questions.
Great. And if any student has questions for me, there's contact information, but I can also, I think you'd be willing to speak with a prospective student too, if you'd like to make that contact through me. But we did have one in the Q&A in the chat. Danielle is actually a current student, and she said she just wanted to learn from you, Rashelle, and she thanks us for our time. So
thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it. And then I see there's a question about environmental. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Daphne asks if if we have students currently in environmental compliance or in occupational. No, we don't have, let's see, occupational. and environment. We do have 2 students in the maritime industry. We don't have specific courses that focus specifically on environment or land use or OSHA. What we do is we try to give students the foundation of broad understanding of laws and legal interpretation, and legal writing and research. And many of our students come with that industry knowledge, but needed the broader. So we don't offer courses specifically in state or federal OSHA, or in environmental, but we do have students who work in that arena. And I'd be happy to talk to you more about it or refer you to a possible program that might be a better fit for you in the environmental sciences.
Yeah, and I would also add, similar to like continued learning and education, CLEs that lawyers take, there are those for compliance professionals as well. So I might go to a seminar, some compliance seminar, and they'll have breakout sessions specific to environmental compliance or, whatever, OSHA safety or what have you. And so always know for the granular, like what's new, what's coming next. Those are items that typically you wouldn't find in a legal course or a master's course because they're so ever changing, but you'd pick those up online and, seminars and things similar to this, where you can get really granular and specific about
Sure.
a particular area.
That's a great point. And, a lot of people, they'll say, oh, when you graduated from law school, what was your specialization? It was like,
Right.
It was getting through law school was my
Right.
specialization.
Right.
But then through practice and through continuing education, you develop your specializations. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. As I was saying that, I was thinking about some specific compliance seminars that I went to that made a difference, on a very specific topic. And so
Oh, sure.
those will always be there.
And some industries have specific certification requirements and CLE requirements anyway,
That's true. Yes.
From HR, from state, from different regulatory agencies at the state or government level. But this master's degree, and it's the same with an MBA. If you go for an MBA, you're not necessarily learning a specific business. You're learning broadly to solve problems and be a leader, and you solve problems through a business and analytic perspective, whereas this degree helps you be the person at the table who's solving problems through, again, you're looking at it through the legal lens, and it's a different approach. And I think it adds value, whether you're at the C-suite level or a manager or just starting out in your career in this arena. And it could branch out to anything from HR to agency work, to NGOs, or to private business and consulting.
Yes. There's certainly a variety of compliance rules at Microsoft, some that are siloed even in certain areas. And so the options are endless.
Absolutely. Well, I don't see any active typing or active questions, so I value people's time, and there are some people joining us from the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
We're already tired from springing forward, so I just want to thank everyone first for attending, but then thank you, Professor Tanner. I value your insights and your dedication to our program and to Microsoft.
Absolutely. You too. I value you. I was just speaking to somebody about the start of this, another alumni about this great program. And I was describing you and all you brought to the table. So thank you. And it's been great to be here. Maybe one point I'll be able to see you guys and be great to see folks in person, even though this is online, but pictures or whatever, however it works one day. But always consider me a resource. Talk to Linda if there's something I can do or a question I can answer. I'm available to all SU alumni or participants or perspectives. So
yeah, the new thing I keep hearing is people are just zoomed out, but until then, we will comply. We will have compliance with a conscience. We will keep our heads down and our masks on. I wish everyone continued health and wellness. And again, thank you so much for your contribution tonight.
Thank you.
So good night.
Good night.